Hyperliquid was one of the best airdrops of 2024 and its ecosystem is rapidly expanding. In today's video, we're taking a look at the best airdrop targets and strategies. Let's get started. And before everything, another reminder that Hyperlink claims are live, and if you have claimed your tokens during the registration period until April 15th, you can claim your tokens whether you've decided on Hyper or ST Hyper from the official claim website. You can also bridge them using the Use Nexus bridge and send them from all different chains you've claimed them on to any other, for example, Base to Binance, etc. And the price is currently at around 25 to 30 cents, more or less stable for the last 24 hours. There's also been a very cool arbitrage opportunity yesterday that was available for only first half an hour, but more on that later. If you want to just sell your tokens, one of the simplest ways to do it is on Jumper Exchange or simply send it to any of these supported CEXs like Binance, Bybit, BitGet, and many others. So regarding Hyperliquid, we're not going to be going through all of these projects, only the ones that we believe have the highest potential to actually give a sizable airdrop. You always need to do your own research and find and identify those that make sense to you. For this, of course, it's best to talk with other people who are very experienced, but for now, we can take a look at these top 10 projects identified here and see that all of them, or most of them, have points program. For the other way to decide on which projects to farm, you can also always go on DeFi Llama and go into the Hyperliquid L1 chain. And here you can see the categories as well as total value locked and the 1 day, 7 day, 1 month changes in usage. This is sometimes a good metric to see and also compare fees. This is incredibly important. Hyperliquid is still raking in insane amount of fees, even with the crypto taking a little slower turn over the last couple of days. But yeah, this is also one of the best places to compare rates and see which projects are worth your time. So let's start with the simplest way you can do to interact with Hyperliquid, and that is liquid staking. Of course, if you've been in crypto for a while, you remember that Ditto was one of the best airdrops of 2023. And whenever I see a liquid staking protocol that is currently very underfarmed, my eyes glow up a little. So at the moment, the premier place to liquid stake on Hyperliquid is Staked HYPE. It's very simple. You simply go to the staking tab and here you stake your HYPE. You get ST HYPE, a LST, so liquid stake token for the underlying asset. And as you can see, the current APR is just 2.1%. So you're not clearly doing this for the yield, but instead you're doing it for potential airdrop speculation. Currently, they don't have any points programs, but they have this My Rewards section, which means that hopefully on the back end, something is being calculated. What intrigues me the most is the fact that they have less than 10,000 users, in fact, just under 7,000 users. So if they actually do some kind of airdrop, it's going to be amazing. And currently, total value locked here is just over 120 million. Of course, it is always recommended to also use these assets in DeFi because in the past, those were multipliers for past airdrops. So you can see that here you can utilize it in Felix, Euler, Hyperland, and other projects. You can also generate some yield on Looped HYPE, Nucleus, and Harmonics. And if you just want to swap out of it, you can also do so on Valantis, Curve, and Hyperswap. What is most important, of course, this goes without saying for all the projects we're going to be talking about today. They are all very new. Most of them don't have a doxed team. So it is incredibly important if you're going to be putting a sizable amount of money into these projects that you actually go through their documentation and try to really understand the risks and potential benefits of engaging with these very risky, very new, potentially profitable projects. Regarding NFTs, you have Drip Trade. This is the premier NFT marketplace on Hyperliquid. It is not currently having any points program, but they do have a rewards tab here in the top part of the website, which is currently locked, indicating that maybe in the future it's going to reward some kind of early usage. Of course, regarding this, it's most important to get some NFTs to secure whitelists for the future, but it's very speculative, so slightly more on the riskier side of things. As always, you will find the most valuable alpha in private communities where a lot of our members are actually giving you exact step-by-step strategies on how to qualify for many different airdrops. My most famous example is the one from May 2023 when one of the guys gave us a step-by-step tutorial how to do something in a couple hours that made me over $2,000 the next day on the Bitcoin ecosystem. So that is very common to see these detailed guides in our Discord. Of course, there's so much alpha. For example, the Hyperliquid thing that we talked about yesterday, there was an arbitrage opportunity where you could buy stuff for 11 cents on Base or Arbitrum or Optimism, and you could bridge it to Binance Smart Chain, and you could sell it for 20 to 25 cents in the first couple minutes, so first half an hour when it launched yesterday. So you have to be on point, and talking with people who are doing this all the time, it just makes things so much easier. Finally, there's also this new airdrops tab, which I've rediscovered today, that actually helps you focus on projects where you can deposit your liquidity and to know and get a better understanding of what is actually worth farming, depending on how few people are actually doing it and how much funding it is. These are two most important metrics, but being able to find this alpha in a condensed way, that is very, very, very good. Of course, if this sounds interesting, just join the subscriptions tab on our website. All the links for everything we talk about are in the first link of the description of every video. Now let's explore a pure DeFi play with Laminar and HyperUnit. So HyperUnit is actually a platform that allows you to use native Bitcoin on Hyperliquid, and you do so by depositing via the Bitcoin network directly on the platform. Minimum is 0.02 Bitcoin, so just under $200, but you actually get to use a non-wrapped version of a token, which is a huge plus. And at the moment, they only have the deposit and withdraw functions. They will add perpetuals and spot trading in the future. So you can utilize this with Laminar by depositing into their vaults, and currently their HYPE BTC vault is one of the highest TVL vaults, and they have just under 3 million in total value locked, offering about 31% APR as of making of this video. If these are, of course, slightly more correlated assets, and one of the tools that I've been absolutely loving over the last couple of months is this correlation matrix on DeFi Llama, where you can actually track how correlated in price the assets have been moving over the last year, 1 month, or 7 days. So you can see that HYPE BTC have been more or less correlated in the greens. So you want to have your correlation between 0 and 1, closer to 1 the better. And as we move closer to present, their correlation is only improving. You can also see that in the visual representation of their price, but the correlation matrix is just so much more practical. And why is this important? Well, because Laminar actually offers you the opportunity to have a very concentrated pairing, which means that you can tighten your liquidity in specific range and earn much higher yield. So first of all, you want to choose the fee tier. In most cases, 0.3 is best for volatile pairs. These are not as volatile, but they still aren't as correlated as, for example, to stablecoins. So in this case, if you want to set a custom range, you can do so looking at the current price, which is at the moment 0.002. So in Bitcoin terms, it's going to be much easier to do it like that. So we would type in, for example, 4,500 to 5,500. And this way you have a big buffer, but still you are generating much more fees than just using a full range or a 20, 30, 40% spread between these two assets. Alternatively, if you believe that HYPE is going to be maintaining price in a similar range, maybe between $15 to $25 as it has been since January, then you can also explore, if you're okay with the slightly higher impermanent loss, you can also take a look at the FE USD and HYPE pairing. This one's offering 112% APR, and it has sizable TVL as well. However, if HYPE drops in price considerably or increases in price considerably, you might be incurring more impermanent loss than, of course, in some assets that are moving more correlated together. And while these two projects specifically don't have any incentives at the moment, that doesn't mean that they won't have in the future. And you can always stack up airdrop Legos using something like Felix protocol in other dApps. And Santiago has recently made a really good video tutorial for Felix protocol. If you haven't checked it out, make sure to check it out. And finally, let's take a look at 3 more places where you can swap tokens and provide liquidity as well as stake with their validator. Starting with Kitten Swap. This is a V3.3 DEX on Hyperliquid, and it's only really unique in a way that you can actually lock your tokens, get voting power, incentivize pools, the classic V3.3 model, which also offers decent rewards on the HYPE UBTC pairing. For example, it's 10% better here on APR side of things than on the other platform we mentioned before, which was Laminar. But of course, if you want to diversify your risk, it is always good to spread your liquidity between different projects, because you never know which can surprise you. For example, Jito, you only need to deposit 1 SOL worth of tokens to get $10,000 airdrop, minimum 15K actually, and that was at a time around $60. So sometimes when deciding on size, we always recommend at least couple $100, but sometimes even $100-$150 per project per wallet can also be worthwhile. Another one we can take a look at is also Hyperland. They also have a points program, and they also allow you to generate some decent yield on your assets. However, this is just a deposit vault, currently is full. So if you want to participate in Hyperland, you will need to follow them on their socials to make sure that these vaults are actually being able to take deposits. KittenSwap's token is coming very soon, but at the moment you can still generate some activity to potentially qualify, and you can also get a NFT which will give you the points multiplier depending on how many NFTs you're holding. Once their token goes live, you will actually be able to use it for voting, but at the moment you can also just use your HYPE to stake with your validator for some potential multipliers. The last one to mention is HyperSwap. It is the same deal as Hyperland and KittenSwap. You have swap, cool functionalities. You have the Earn tab where you can stake your HYPE tokens with their validator. And this one is actually offering currently the best APRs on HYPE UBTC. However, it is always recommended to split your liquidity between multiple projects to minimize smart contract and execution risks. And that is a wrap for all the updates regarding Hyperliquid for today. If you like the content, make sure to like and subscribe with bell notifications on. Any questions, comments, drop them in the comment section below. And if you're ready to take your game and strategy to the next level, we're waiting for you in our Discord. Thanks for watching. Until next time, have an amazing day.